I'm going to sit down and give this talk because I just feel more comfortable that way. So they say it's good to start these things off with a joke. I hope I don't offend anybody or get any complaints from the Law Society. But what do you call a woman who flies a plane? A pilot, you fucking chauvinist. So that's basically what we're here to talk about, is women in the law. Just this past week, I attended the Women in Litigation Conference hosted by the Law Society. And at the conference, a topic that was talked about quite a lot was the idea of the imposter syndrome. And I know that I've been guilty of it, and I know that some of my female colleagues have been guilty of it, and maybe some men have been guilty of it too, but it seems a lot less apparent with my male colleagues. What the imposter syndrome is a phenomenon where people are unable to internalize their accomplishments. And despite external evidence of their accomplishments, they find it impossible to believe in themselves or to attribute those accomplishments to any doing of their own. And even proof of success is dismissed by people suffering from this syndrome as due to luck or timing. You know, that was a great witness, or I had a good set of facts. And it also involves a lot of worrying and self-criticism. And apparently the imposter syndrome is primarily suffered by women. And it's prevalent in women who practice law, especially those who are in litigation. When I come out of a trial, even if I've won the trial, I find it hard to give myself any of the credit. I'll give anyone and everyone credit except for myself. So again, it's always because I had a good witness, or I had a good set of facts, or you know, the judge could see the merits of my case in spite of myself. And I just wanted to put that out there because I think it's something that a lot of junior female counsel are suffering from. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention in talking about the issue of women in the law. Having said that, though, I want to stress that this imposter syndrome is not something that makes us weak. It just means that we're very self-critical and that we hold ourselves to almost an impossible standard. So even though I'm not excited about the one who has to be the one who has to sit up here tonight and give this talk, you know, I'm glad that we are talking about it and that it's something that we're discussing as a community. And we're here tonight to talk about women in the law and why it's different for us than it is for men. And what unique struggles do women face that men are not facing in this business. And we're also here to discuss equality in the workplace, and that's not something that we should be striving for just between men and women. It's also something that we should be striving for in evening the playing field between women in different areas of criminal practice, you know, in the same field, because there is a lack of equality between certain benefits that Crown Counsel get and then benefits that defense lawyers, for example, do not get. So, you know, female lawyers face certain difficulties in the workplace that men don't, and it's clear that as a whole, women are concerned about ensuring that they have time for pursuits and responsibilities outside of the workplace. And this preference has led women to pursue specific career paths that tend to preclude private practice. Whether this preference is a result of free choice or the result of systematic forces is a matter of some debate. And it's not to say that women haven't made their mark in the legal community. In criminal law alone, we have a group of very talented female counsel and judges to boast of, and we've got some very talented women here tonight: Justice Michelle First, Janet Leeper. We've had Justice Kelly Wright speak at this event as well, Nadia Leva, Francesca Yeskel, and Marlis Edward, just to name a few. In fact, the number of women in law has changed dramatically over the past 30 years. And in 1986, women made up 20% of law practitioners. In 1996, they made up 30%, and in 2006, women made up almost 40% of law practitioners. In recent years, women have consistently made up more than 50% of the new calls to the bar in Ontario. And the average age of a woman called to the bar in Ontario is 30 years old, which of course means that women lawyers are facing their career tracks and their parental tracks all at the same time. And this is the key, is that women are more likely than men to work in government or in institutional settings, rather than in private practice. So 21% of women lawyers work in government versus only 11% of men. When I started in criminal practice about 3 years ago, I noticed a lot of women around. I knew a lot of other female articling students. I saw a lot of women in the Crown's office. I saw a lot of women on the bench. And even the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada was a woman. So women do have a large presence in criminal law, but I think the detailed picture is not as promising as what the numbers would suggest. And one day I was in the cafeteria at the Newmarket Courthouse, and I was speaking to a particular judge, and we spoke on the topic of women in the law, and the judge remarked on what he saw as a significant gap between junior women counsel practicing criminal defense and those practicing with 10 or more years experience. And when I started looking around and I started asking my fellow female defense counsel about this gap theory, they not only confirmed it, but they also provided me with a reason why. And I heard the same story over and over again, that women are facing struggles in law that men are not. What's clear is that women bring a very unique set of values to legal work. And women lawyers are just as committed to their profession as men, but women experience greater pressure and more responsibilities to manage outside the workplace. On top of that, it seems that a large percentage of us may also be suffering from the imposter syndrome. And as we all know, the practice of law often makes very excessive demands on your time and on your energy, and it makes it difficult to achieve a healthy work-life balance and to handle obligations of childcare on top of that. And flexible work hours are hard to find, especially in sole or small firms, and there are fewer supports in sole or small firms than there are in larger firms. And of course, any difficulties that women face in that regard are magnified if the woman is a single parent. So keeping women in criminal defense and in private practice should be something that we're all concerned about, because women bring diversity to the workplace, and increasing diversity in the legal profession benefits everybody. And of course, the more diverse the workplace, the more ideas that are brought to the table. And men also need to be engaged in the process. We need men to listen to the women that they work with, and to think inclusively about family responsibility, and be educated about the impact of family structure on women's abilities to participate in what's very often the hectic world of criminal law. And as society's values are changing, men are increasingly taking on family responsibilities and looking for flexibility as well. At the Women in Litigation Conference last week, Marie Henein was asked how she did it, how she successfully balanced family and career. And her response was, well, how did my husband do it? And I thought that was brilliant because, and I think she's right, equality means that that question is not only posed to women, but it's posed to men just as much. What's certain is that women are not going to succeed unless this is not a women's issue anymore. And women are at the forefront and are leaders on this topic, but men have to be on board too. And since our profession is one based on our shared values of civility and integrity and respect for our colleagues and for the court, it should not be a problem for anybody in this room. We've come a long way since the days when Marlis Edward began her practice 30 years ago. And at the CLA Fall Conference last year, Marlis gave the advocacy lecture in memory of Justice Sapinka. Marlis' speech was inspirational, and she reminded us all of how important our role as participants in the justice system is. She remarked on how much things had changed for women over the last 30 years when, you know, they didn't have robing rooms in the courthouses, so she would have to change in the broom closet. And I agree with her that things have changed a lot, but my female colleagues and I seem to have consensus that some men still engage in subtle and not so subtle undermining of women in the legal community. I can't tell you how many times I've seen men mystified at my status as a lawyer. And you know, the question's been posed to me in every possible way. You're not a lawyer, are you? You're a lawyer? My favorite is, are you Paul's assistant? And if anyone has noticed the improvement in Paul's work over the last 3 years, you know I'm not just Paul's assistant. And I don't intend on painting all men in this field with the same brush. There are some wonderful male counsel out there who are willing to help you and mentor you, and who don't see gender as an issue in this field. And I think all young counsel, whether you're male or female, you need a good mentor. And you need a mentor who puts your education at the top of the list. And I've been very lucky in that regard. But for female counsel, even if you have a great male mentor in your life, I think it's also important for you to have a strong female mentor. And you need someone to guide you through the particular struggles that you will face as a woman in this field. And that's why we started the Garage Series, was to be leaders in helping educate junior counsel and encouraging other lawyers to participate in the same way. I just want to talk a little bit about certain solutions that have been put in place for women in private practice to kind of prevent what seems to be a mass exodus from private practice. The issue's garnered a lot of attention and a lot of support in the last decade. The Law Society has launched some very promising initiatives targeting this issue directly. And the initiatives are designed to empower women to take charge of their careers and to help them maintain the viability of their small practices. 80% of firms in Ontario are of 5 and fewer lawyers. and the Law Society has implemented specific recommendations and resources for sole and small firms. In March of 2009, the Law Society launched its Parental Leave Assistance Program to assist lawyers in small firms and sole practices. The program aims to help cover expenses associated with maintaining a practice during the lawyer's parental or adoption leave by providing up to 12 weeks benefits. And to qualify, male or female lawyers must be in a firm of 5 or fewer lawyers and have no access to other benefits. To date, over 60 applications have been approved, and not surprisingly, men are also taking advantage of the program. About 27% of applications for the Parental Leave Assistance Program have been by men. In April of 2009, the Law Society also launched the Justicia Project, which aims to create a group of medium to large firms committed to identifying and adopting principles and best practices aimed at keeping women in private practice. Currently, there are 56 firms who have joined the project and who have made a commitment to track gender demographics, to review their firm policies, and to develop programs aimed at keeping women in private practice. The Law Society has also launched new online resources specifically for women called the Women's Online Resource Center, and it offers online practical supports for a variety of topics, including mentorship and managing work-life balance. And these initiatives by the Law Society, taken together, I think, paint a picture of the priorities that women are bringing into this field. The Law Society has also launched the Lawyers Contact Registry, and the purpose of the registry is to help lawyers maintain their practice during a leave of absence. So whether it's a maternity leave or you're busy on a complicated trial, you can go on to the Law Society website and hook yourself up with a lawyer who will come in and take over certain aspects of your practice while you're unable to be there. And we can't forget that law firms have a legal and a professional duty not to discriminate. Law firms are required to provide equity in the workplace, and office policies and procedures have to reflect the human rights legislation and the rules of professional conduct. The Human Rights Code of Ontario prohibits discrimination in the workplace, and Rule 5.04 of the Rules of Professional Conduct provide that the law firms have a legal and professional, law firms are not to discriminate based on, amongst other things, sex, sexual orientation, age, marital status, and family status. Discrimination in the practice of law breaches acceptable standards of professional conduct, as well as provincial human rights laws. The Law Society has released a guide to developing policy and workplace equity in law firms. So if you or your law firm, no matter how big or small you are, want to implement a workplace equity policy, you can go on to the Law Society website, and they have guidelines there that you can adapt to your own use. So with all these resources that I've just spoken about put in place, things are starting to really look up for women defense counsel in private practice. But I don't think it's where it should be quite yet. For one thing, I think there needs to be a formalized mentorship program for women. And as much as senior counsel are great about inviting you to call them up whenever you need anything or you have any questions to answer, sometimes we just don't feel comfortable doing that. So it would be, I think, beneficial to junior female counsel to have somebody that they can call up, a female senior counsel, to discuss the particular issues that they're having, whether it be, you know, imposter syndrome issues, whatever it might be. I think that's something that needs to be put in place. So just in conclusion, I just want to say that, you know, the initiatives that have been starting are very promising. But the fact remains that women in private practice, when they want to have a family, they have a very difficult decision to face. And I don't think it's a decision that they should have to make. And as much as things have changed, the resounding message from the women that I've spoken to is that we should still all be examining the gender dynamic in law. And female counsel in private practice deserve what females who leave private practice, that 21% of females who leave private practice to go work in government institutions. We deserve the same kind of support and the same kinds of benefits as women who leave private practice. As young criminal lawyers, we have the opportunity to learn from some great defense counsel who are, you know, very helpful. And at events like this one and CLA conferences and at the Advocate Society conferences and anything put on by your provincial or your local bar associations. What we keep hearing is that to practice criminal law, you have to have passion. You have to have passion and you have to be dedicated in order to succeed. And my point is that it seems for women that something a little more might be required in order to succeed in this practice. So we want to cultivate a new generation of lawyers who are just as skilled, just as dedicated as their predecessors. We have to support them in their journey. As Marlis Edward reminded us all, our role as defense lawyers is an important one, and it's central to the protection of the rule of law. But the culture of law will have to undergo a fundamental shift to one that's more family-friendly if women are expected to stay in private practice. I think it's a great sign for the future that we're all here talking about this tonight. So I want to thank you all very much for coming and listening. Thank you.